John 13 is a pivotal chapter in the gospel as Jesus begins the long farewell from his intimate bands of friends, really from chapter 14 through to 17. And as always, timing is important. We read in the very first verse of chapter 13, it was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come to him to leave this world. Timing is so important. The chapter contains the washing of the disciples' feet, a marvelous picture uniquely in John's gospel. And it tells of Jesus telling of the betrayal that would soon happen, as well as speaking about Peter's denial, those painful aspects, betrayal and denial. Let me read to you now from later on in that chapter these words, John 13, 31 to 35. When he was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Once again, we're mindful of the beginning to the close of Jesus' formal ministry. And Jesus gives a new instruction, what has often been called a new commandment. And the words, "my children." Now, these are not strange because these are words that he used in 1 John to identify his beleaguered community of disciples. This commandment is a very powerful one. It's one really that instructs Christians in this and every age to know what it is to follow him. The command to love begins in Jesus and is for all who follow. A commandment that's very real. It's a commandment that needs a response to it. It's a commandment that somehow encapsulates the meaning of the gospel. And it's also an indication of what it means to display the Christian faith. Verses 34 and 35 say it all. "A new commandment I give you, love one another. As I've loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know." It becomes the mark of our mission to the world. You see, this is the way people will know we are really followers of Jesus. This is the way people will know that we are truly, in the deepest sense, disciples of Jesus. Not because we carry some kind of badge around, not because everybody says, hey, this is something important because they belong to a certain school or teaching, but because love is shown. Love to one another and love to all the world. And that has always been the mark of Christian people. By this you shall know that they're my disciples, by the love that they show for one another. And I believe that that is not only a word that Jesus shared with his disciples at one point in time as he was about to face the events that would lead eventually to the cross. It is the indication of what it means to follow him. So it is a love that is before the cross, and it's a love after the resurrection to be seen in our lives. It's the sign by which we'll be known. It's the sign by which we will be identified. In a very real sense, there needs to be a love within us that is powerful, that is expressive, that is demonstrated. Of course, the disciples, it's interesting it comes, doesn't it, after that passage that's told us about the one that would betray him, the one who would deny him. Interesting that it's placed there. I'm sure John, when he was putting together the words of Jesus, would be conscious of the relationship between those who let him down and those that must now pick up that call of discipleship. I wonder what that commandment means for you. I wonder what it means for me to be able to love each other. Perhaps it means crossing boundaries, as we heard in the interview a little earlier in the show. Perhaps it means reaching out and doing things that we never thought would be achieved or possible because there is something empowered within us. It's a commandment, but it's a commandment that's been given to us. So it's as important as anything to recognize that what Jesus asks us to do has been shown in his life. Together, we want to be disciples who not only carry the name of Jesus, but show the name and the works of Jesus by the way we live our lives day by day. That's the way that people will know that we are truly disciples in our mission into all the world. It is the sign by which we will be known.